Welcome. We're going to begin a new series analyzing the historicity of the book of Daniel. Let's get straight into it. Bergsma and Petrie write, quote, "Analyzed by genre, the book breaks into two sections. The court tales of Daniel and his companions in the service of the Babylonian and Persian royalty, Daniel 1-6, and the prophetic dream visions of Daniel himself, chapters 7-12. So we have these two major sections of the book. Let's quickly give a rundown of chapters 1-6, which recounts the court tales of Daniel. In chapter 1, Daniel and his companions are introduced into the Babylonian court, but refuse to partake in the Babylonian diet. In chapter 2, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, has a dream which only Daniel can interpret. In chapter 3, we have the famous story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being thrown into a fiery furnace when they refuse to bow down to the image of King Nebuchadnezzar. In chapter 4, Daniel interprets another dream by Nebuchadnezzar, resulting in the king descending into madness and living like a wild animal for 7 years. In chapter 5, we have Belshazzar's feast with vessels from the Jerusalem temple, which results in writing on the wall, which only Daniel can interpret. And finally, in chapter 6, we have the most famous story of all, Daniel in the lion's den. Similar to the fiery furnace incident, this comes about when Daniel refuses to pray to Darius the Mede. In these 6 stories, you can undoubtedly notice the common trait of the Jewish protagonist being able to decipher an enigma unlike their Babylonian counterpart. And most importantly, the idea of remaining faithful during challenging times. These common themes have led commentators to view chapters 1-6 as a thematic unit known as the court tales. John J. Collins notes, quote, "In Daniel 1-6, it creates a paradigmatic setting to exemplify how Jews can preserve their religious integrity in the service of Gentile kings." So that is the first section of the book of Daniel, the court tales. Let's now move on to the second section, chapters 7-12, which is all about prophetic visions. Let's again provide a breakdown of each chapter. In chapter 7, we have the vision of the 4 beasts, each representing a world kingdom. In chapter 8, we have the vision of the 2-horned ram being destroyed by a 1-horned goat, this representing the Persian and Greek empires. In chapter 9, we have the very enigmatic 70-week prophecy given by the angel Gabriel. And then finally, in chapters 10-12, but primarily in chapter 11, Daniel has his final vision, describing a series of conflicts between the king of the north and the king of the south, culminating in the time of the end. So that is a breakdown of the 4 visions of chapters 7-12. About these visions, Collins writes, quote, "These visions are notoriously difficult in the sense that they go over the same material in different ways and often deviate from sequential logic." It's really important that we understand what Collins has written here, that these 4 visions, quote, "go over the same material in different ways." So, we don't have 4 visions about 4 different events. Rather, we have 4 visions all about the same event. Or, to say it another way, the visions of Daniel 7-12 retells the same event 4 times in 4 different ways. Another important fact about these 4 visions is that each vision contains greater detail than the last. Therefore, in my opinion, the best way to understand the 4 visions of chapters 7-12 is to actually begin at the end, with the final vision of the kings of the north and south. This vision found in chapter 11 is by far the most detailed and will give us the best understanding of the event. Newsom writes in her commentary about chapter 11, quote, "Chapter 11 contains one of the most unusual compositions in any apocalyptic writing. It is a minutely detailed history of political and military events, narrated in a slightly coded fashion as it consolidates the various Seleucid and Ptolemaic monarchs as the king of the north and the king of the south, respectively. The historical details are so precise and so generally accurate that scholars have cogently argued that the author must have had access to a chronicle of the history of the Seleucid and Ptolemaic political and military interactions, probably one written in Greek." End quote. If that quote doesn't get you excited about Daniel chapter 11, I don't know what will. So we're going to spend the next several videos breaking down and analyzing chapter 11 of the book of Daniel, which will introduce you to a lot of very nice Seleucid and Ptolemaic monarchs. If this is something that you are interested in, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Even a small ongoing donation really encourages me to continue to create this content. It tells me that this is valuable content which people are seeking. So please check out my Patreon. If donating isn't something that you're able to do, it's still tremendously helpful if you hit that like button and leave some comments, which I will respond to. And finally, make sure you are subscribed to get my next video. So with all that being said, thank you for watching all the way until the end. And as always, I will see you in the next one.